Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Many Faces of Cancer podcast. I am your host, Melissa Grosboll, and joining me today is Nathalie Latham. And Nathalie was a photographer and filmmaker based in Paris. Her first solo exhibition was at the Australia National Portrait Gallery, and her work had been published in Le Monde 2, Frankfurter Rundschau, Australian Financial Review, and Domus. At the age of 39, she was diagnosed with stage 3 cervical cancer. The world as she knew it came to an abrupt halt. During brachytherapy radiation, she was stuck in bed for 7 days and nights and needed an activity to focus her mind on. So she began drawing. This creative act became her lifeline. As she recovered from treatment, she kept drawing to remind herself that she was alive. These drawings are now available for the world in her visual memoir, I Am Alive, Creating Resilience and Healing Trauma Through Art. Today, she lives in South India, supporting nature and education projects with Green Shakti. So welcome to the show, Nathalie.
Thank you so much, Melissa. Thank you for having me.
I am so happy to have you on today. And we chatted, oh my gosh, it's probably been a month now. And your story has just stuck with me so hard just because of everything that you went through and how you turned it around. So I just can't wait to dive into all of the things about your journey and your book, which thank you very much for the copy of it. I've thoroughly enjoyed reading through it and looking at all the photos. So
thank you.
And you are in India, so you are like 12 and a half hours difference from me.
Yep, you're at the beginning of your day. I'm at the end.
Exactly. I don't know. Maybe we should turn that around. No, I am definitely more of a morning person. So we are good to go with that.
Yeah.
All right. So take us back because, guys, you are going to just thank your lucky stars for everything that you have right now once you listen to Nathalie's stories. So take us back to around the time when you were diagnosed. What was going on in your life and how did you discover that you had cancer?
So at the time, it was back in 2009, and I basically was. I was in India working on a project. I was actually here working on a project, and I was about to leave to Australia. And so just hang on. Yeah, so I traveled to Australia. There was some alerts that I had when I was here, and then I went to Australia and I did some checkups, and I found out that I had stage 3 cervical cancer there, and my whole experience of having cancer, it was like my whole world fell apart. Not just getting cancer, but my relationship ended the week before I was diagnosed, and then I went into radiation treatment in Paris. I returned back to Paris for my treatment, and sort of that's when my life really fell apart because my body and my mind really fell apart. I don't know if I actually answered your question though, did I? It was about actually I was diagnosed and I went pretty quickly into treatments about 8 weeks later. And
so
for cervical cancer, it's brachytherapy treatments, which is internal radiation.
So you were going to Australia anyway, and then you were diagnosed while you were there, or did you go because you had a doctor there or something?
No, I was working on a project. I was working on a project in 3 different. Like I'd been in Germany. I'd finished the project in India, and I was doing the last part in Australia, and also meeting up with the love of my life, and that's when I got diagnosed. So I was at that time in my life. I was doing a lot of travel. I was doing photography and film work. So I was really, all my work was really out looking at the other. So I was spending a lot of time, documenting people and that sort of thing. So and then my life, when I got diagnosed, I then went into a very much more of an insular life because I got stuck in bed, and that's when I started to draw. So my creative life from going from being out in the world, being sort of stuck in bed was a very, very big transformation. But it was
I'm
also
sure.
really important for me too,
And
because
then what made you choose Paris for your treatments versus staying in
oh, I
Australia?
oh, I had been living in Paris. So I'm Australian originally, as you can tell with my accent, but I had actually been living in Paris for 16 years at that time. So
Okay.
on my whole base in life, I was on the health system in Paris and that sort of stuff. So, and it was my oncologist who, I had a really, really great oncologist. So that's, yeah. But I'm really very, very grateful for having done it in Paris because the team was like really excellent. So,
And now, so you said you're oncologist. How did you find, I mean, I'm sure you didn't have an oncologist before then. So did you, or
I
was
actually,
it just, I don't know how the health system works
yeah,
over
no,
in France?
I actually had a friend of mine who was an oncologist based in New York, and I used to always say, if anybody I know has cancer, I'm going to just send them to him, and I was the person who had cancer, so that was the first thing. And when I spoke to him at first, I said, can you just tell me over the phone what I've got to do? And he said, no, you've actually got to come to New York. You need to sit in front of me, and then I'll be able to tell you what you need to do. And that was the last thing I wanted to do because I was in Australia. I was New York's 24-hour flight, but I did it, and fortunately, I know I've got a very lovely community in New York, so people really took care of me, and I did all my tests there, and he was the person who said to go to Paris and do the treatment there because that was like the best place, and I was on the health system because that's where I lived, so that's why I went. Yeah, that's why I did it in Paris.
And now, do you like here in the United States? I mean, we have choices. There are lots of different oncology teams and stuff and different hospitals and we can kind of choose based on our insurance, but kind of where we want to go. How does the health system work over there? Do you still have choices or is it like, okay, you're in this area, this is who you get to see?
Yeah, for me, it was really my surgeon was like the person who was my go-to, and he was the one who worked with the team at the Institut Marie Curie, which is the cancer hospital. There's sort of just a few. There's three major cancer hospitals in Paris, and so that was the one that he was connected to. So I was really going because he was like the best surgeon around, and I was about to get a fair bit of surgery happening. So that was, but yeah, could I have gone to another hospital? I could have, but he wasn't connected to another hospital, so that's
Okay,
why.
that
Yeah,
makes sense. Yeah. So you
yeah,
had your surgeon and then he kind of
and
had the
he
rest
was,
of the
and
thing.
yeah, and then I wasn't, and so also because it's a public health system, sort of everybody just goes through the same, I guess, through the same, yeah, through the same process.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Now I don't necessarily want to go into, massive detail, but I
Mm.
really want you to share your experience with therapy because like, I have never heard of therapy like this before. And obviously, this is the impetus
But
of
but
your
you've
book.
heard of brachytherapy though, haven't you?
Yes, I have, but not to
Right.
the extent of
Oh, I see.
what you went through. So
Right.
take us through a little bit about what your treatment entailed.
Yeah. So I guess the first thing to say is that for cervical cancer, I had cervical cancer because I didn't do my pap smears every year. Because I was traveling so much, I was a bit negligent or very negligent in terms of my checkups. So the moral of this story is tell your girlfriends to do their pap smear tests. I think that's the first part of the story.
Always
Um,
get checked. That's just the moral of every story. If you can catch it early, so much easier.
exactly, exactly. But by the time that it was caught for me, I had a 4 centimeter tumor, and so it was stage three, and I went into brachytherapy. So brachytherapy is internal radiation, and so there's basically a radiation machine and a bar that is inserted into the uterus, and not into the uterus, sorry, it's into the cervix, and then the radiation is basically shot up onto the cervix for about 25 minutes, and then you have like a 35-minute off time, and then 25 minutes again. So it's really like getting like nails like shot up onto the cervix, which is very painful. And for some bizarre reason, they do it 24 hours a day, I guess because they've just got to get it done. And I had it for 7 days and 7 nights. I actually had a little bit longer because daylight saving happened. And so there was one night where I think it was like on the sixth night, I actually had slept because you can't sleep because you're getting radiated every hour. And I remember thinking, oh my God, I've slept. This is fantastic. And then I realized the nurses came in and were like, oh my God, the radiation machine stopped. But I was like, oh no, at least I slept. But it did mean I had to have like another half day. So it did
Oh my
extend it a
gosh.
bit.
All right.
Yeah,
So hang on. So you were getting radiated for 25 minutes
yeah,
every hour,
yeah.
24 hours a day
Mm,
for seven
for,
and a half days.
correct. And
So you could
this
not
is,
move for 7.5 days.
that's correct. I was on my back. I was on my back and I know. I was on my back, and yeah, one of the things on top of being radiated is when you lie on your back for that amount of time, there's a constant experience of back pain because you cannot,
Sure.
and yeah. So that's, and then also you can't eat very well because you're not allowed to poop, because if you poop, the rod might move. So they sort of give you potatoes and fish, which of course you don't feel like eating anyway because you're being radiated all the time. So, and then there's a catheter, so you because you can't
You can at
pee,
least
so
drink.
you can drink. Yeah, yeah. No, it was a very gruesome experience, and that's why for me drawing, and this is why the drawings from the book are so important to me because being stuck in that situation, I really had to find a way to get my mind focused. And so two things that I did is I drew, and I actually when went into radiation, I actually had a whole bag of art supplies and of clay and books and movies and paints and these oil pastels. And I ended up just using the oil pastels and just drawing on my back and really focusing my mind on the drawings as I went through. So it was really able to, because it was a very important thing to be able to not go completely nuts. Because I was very concerned about just sort of really losing it. Yeah. So I just thought, I've got to stay calm. I've got to stay calm despite being in this very difficult situation.
Wow. And for those of you who are listening to the audio, and I've heard the story before, and I am just absolutely in shock, just trying to even imagine this. So you were flat on your back. Were you at least kind of, you know,
I had a few
going
pillows
up a
behind
little
me.
bit so you could draw, or were you flat on your
No,
back?
no,
Like,
no, 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 pretty much flat on my back. Yeah, 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 yeah.
okay. Um, yeah, so what I guess, and I mean you were an artist before, so was that kind of the first thought that entered into your mind to help you to be able to center and get through this was
No,
to draw, or was this
yeah,
something that like in
yeah,
your
no.
insanity it came to
No, I
you?
mean, the first thing that it did, so I've had a spiritual path before I was diagnosed. I've been coming to India to this temple where I live now, and I'd actually gone through a whole process of learning about mantra. So mantra is the repetition of sounds, and mantra compared to words actually create a particular energy, and that energy can really create more strength within the soul and within one's being. So as soon as I knew I was diagnosed, I started chanting my mantra, which is my mantra is for Mother Earth. And so I just chanted that all the time. And so that was one way that while I was going through all of the tests and that sort and even just lying in bed at night time, being told that I might not get through this and that sort of stuff. That was one thing that really helped me. Um, and then and I was photographing because I was always photographing anyway. So I was photographing when I was waiting for doctor's appointments, when I was getting my blood tests and that sort of stuff. So my photographs were not so much out in the world, but more about my world, which had really closed in quite quickly. And I was photographing from the taxi windows and that sort of thing. And then when I got stuck in bed, you can't photograph anymore. So and
Other than the
I knew
ceiling,
about,
right?
yeah, well, yeah, enough to that, like you can't do much. So I knew that I was going to be stuck in bed for that period of time. So what I did is I asked all my friends to write to me and also send drawings and cards. And so what I did was I put all those cards on the wall. So I had this art gallery of love that was to
Mm.
accompany me during that 1 week of radiation treatment. And I wrote my mantra on the wall too in big A3 pieces of paper. And so it was OM Namo Narayani along the whole wall. So I thought that's going to take me through this whole 7 days. And then there was the actual drawings, which really helped me focus my um, focus all the emotions that I was going through, because it's very, very complex when you're going through such horror and such physical pain and torture, there's nowhere to run to. So you're dealing with a lot of emotions. And so what I was able to do with drawing was to be able to just put that out on paper, and that was really, really helpful.
Mm. I wow. All right. I can't even
So
imagine.
creativity, what I'm saying is, like, it was the creative aspect and my spiritual aspect. It was having really those two pillars, which were really got me through, and were really, and even after I finished the treatment, because I was much worse after the treatment than during it, because after that I was dealing with very um, quite intense PTSD, and I also had the surgically induced menopause because my ovaries burnt overnight from the radiation. So I was dealing with all of that. So, and I got into a very, very deep depression. So that's those two pillars of creativity and the connection to my spiritual life was also was really, really important to keep me going and
And
get
you
me through that
continued to
time.
draw after your treatment was done, correct?
I did, yeah, I did, but also it wasn't out of like, oh, I'll just draw. It was actually I really needed to have something to focus on. And at that time, I was in such a deep depression that I actually didn't feel that I was part of the world. So every time I drew, I would see the drawing and I'd go, okay, if this drawing exists, that means that I still exist. It means I'm alive. I'm on this planet right now, and it was something just to remind me that although I didn't feel I was in my body, I was still around. So that was actually something that was helpful to me on a psychological level. And then I kept drawing because I had so much rage after. I mean, I had so much rage and anger for what I'd gone through, and sadness, and then there was all the grief that I was going through. So that was also really helpful to draw about all that too. And then that after a few years that changed, and then I started coming back to life and started going into the gratitude. But it was really a good 4 years before I got to that point of where I could really feel the lightness and the return to life.
Wow, 4 years. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I would say. Yeah, it was actually. I would say the 5 years. You know that 5 year mark when you get told that you're cancer free and it shouldn't be coming back. That
Shouldn't
I don't
be,
know what.
right?
Yeah, well, yeah, nothing's guaranteed. But I
Right.
really feel that that was important because I really felt like that I had a death sentence upon me, and I didn't realize that I was living with this death sentence. And then when that 5th year, and one of my drawings is about that, is that when I go to that 5th year checkup, I just felt like the death sentence is lifted, and it was like you have permission to live now. And my life, I really felt that that was when really was able to embrace life. And my PTSD, my nervous system I was able to really regulate it and deal with with my world and that sort of stuff. Um, so yeah, from 5 to 7 years, it was a little fragile, but I was doing a lot better. And then by 7 years, I feel like I returned to who I am today. But yeah, it was a very slow process. Yeah.
And I remember you saying that it was, even once you hit that 7 year mark, it was still quite a while before you could even go back and look at the drawings that you had done.
Oh, oh yeah. No, that took me years. That was about 14 years before I could look at the drawings, because you've got to remember every drawing had such intense emotion in it. So, and I was just doing them because it was therapeutic to me, and it was really life giving to draw. Um, and yeah, friends would always say, you could make a book. You've got so many of these drawings. I said boxes and boxes of them, and it was like, oh, I can't even look at them. And the friend said, I had a friend who had helped me edit the first 5 years of the drawings, but I just couldn't. Yeah, I just put them all back on the shelf after that. It's like not ready. But yeah, after about 14 years, it was. I think what happened is that there was all that process of actually really having to befriend everything that I went through. And it was
Mm.
like befriending the torture of the radiation. It was befriending the loss of my, reproductive system, of my sexual being, of all of these parts of me that I really deeply grieved. And having, and had to adapt to this new life and this new being. And once I could actually accept who I had become, and that all of the, and accept all of those steps, then I was able to like go back to the drawings and go, okay, this is a part of me, but it's now part of my tapestry, but it doesn't trigger me, it doesn't hurt me, it doesn't make me sad. It's just, this is who I am. So yeah, so all of that took a long time.
And did you have, I guess, kind of a moment where all of a sudden you looked at those boxes and said, "Yeah, I think I can go through that now," or was it just kind of a gradual thing?
Do you know, I kept returning to them, and it was just, it was like a physical thing. It was like, no, I can't do this right now. And because so there was a desire to return to them, and but yeah, there was just sort of still more internal work to do. And then, I mean, I don't remember the moment, I do. There was obviously a moment because it was like there was this, I don't remember it, but it was like it just felt easy and it felt possible. And also to even just to write about it, it's because the introduction there's about 40 pages of just to giving you the background of the book. So all of that, it was. I feel like once I had become fully healed of the experience and fully accepted who I had become and what my life had become, then it was like, okay, I can let this all go and talk about it now.
And then, do you have any advice for someone who might be in a similar situation as to going through the process and really getting to the other side of this trauma and PTSD and all the things? Like, what really worked for you? Was it your spirituality? Was there something else that was able to help you kind of get to that other side where you could kind of look at it without as much emotion?
I mean, there was one thing, nature really helped me in my process of healing. And I was actually given, like back in the second year of my recovery, I was actually given the tree project here at the temple. And so I was in charge of the environmental project to take care of tree planting and the composting and all that. And that I thought was a nice idea. But in actual fact, being with the trees every day and being with nature and in that energy of nature was the greatest thing I could have done. It was like really the greatest gift I was given, because I was, firstly, the energy of nature is like so exquisite. I mean, you can only feel good when you're hanging out in nature, but also to witness the life force of nature and the process of life with nature, and to witness how the flowers come and how the birds come to the trees that you've planted, or how the leaves open, and to actually see that, we are nature. So, the tree and myself, it's like we're the same beings. With this life force, I may have a human body, the tree has a trunk, but what brings us life is the same force. And to see that process of growing and that it's always growing forward was very important to me. So I think hanging out in nature for someone, I mean, if you're going, one's going through the process of treatment, is really, really important. Um, and it's also the exquisiteness of nature, and also you just see how small we are within the whole context of it all, right? And how much there's that. And for me, my spirituality was so important because there's so many moving parts, which I think everybody has this experience of going through a health crisis or any life crisis. Is that when you've got so many moving parts around you, the to be connected to one's soul is like it's your anchor. It's like, it's that center part that doesn't move. Your body changes, your emotions change, but the soul is unchangeable. So there's that, which is really important. And for me as a creative person, it was of course being able to create and express myself through whatever medium it was, to all these complex emotions that I was going through. So I would say those three things: nature, the spirit, being connected to one's spirit, and creating in some way, and also creating. There's so much joy in it, right? If if we don't take it seriously, it's like, yeah.
For those of us non-creatives, it's always good to continue to hear that. I'm that, was it the left brain, the much more logical side. So I keep hearing that being creative and expressing yourself in that way is very important for healing and just life in general.
And it's also so much fun too.
If you're talented, maybe, but
I don't know, for me, my creativity is so much so linked to my spiritual practice too. Like when I'm drawing, I really do feel like, or even photographing, I really do feel it's connecting to my soul. So that's, so it's, yeah.
Now, after going through all of this, has your creative process changed at all? I mean, because this was such an emotional, traumatic creativity that you had here. Has your relationship to creativity and your art changed from before this process to now?
Well, I've changed because I'm much happier now.
So your creativity before you were diagnosed to now.
Before I was diagnosed, do you know what? I was so serious about I was such a serious photographer. I was so serious about it all. So I've actually loosened up a lot, and I'm sort of, it's like, thank God. Yeah, I was like, yeah, I was, so I'm definitely a lot happier as a creative person. I'm not trying to prove anything to anybody anymore, which I definitely was before I had cancer. And I think that's sort of the beauty of getting cancer, is that it's devastating, but it's also so freeing, because you can just become who you truly are. And you just realize that life is just so limited, and make the most of what we have. So that's, so now, I just create for the joy of it. So that's a pretty huge gift.
Are you still drawing and painting, or has your creativity changed?
No, every day. But I mean, I'm discovering gouache at the moment. I do a lot of stuff. I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of images. We're going through so much difficulty in the world. I really want to bring beauty, and I want to bring, beautiful pieces to people, so that they can live with them. So I'm doing a lot of visual prayers and things like that. So yeah.
I love that. Now I want to go into the process a little bit. So you had, boxes and boxes of drawings. What was the editing process like to find, the I don't even know how many pictures are in this book, like to choose.
There's about 200 pictures in the book, and
Okay.
there was over
So what
1,000.
was your process to whittle all of that down to find which ones really needed to be in the book?
I think that's just something you develop when you work as, if you're working in film or photography or art, you're always editing down, right? You're always like getting out, and it's a bit like weeding. You know what the weeds look like, right? You know what a good plant looks like. So it's just having a practiced eye, and I also worked with a friend, Diana, who is a really amazing photographer in London, and she really helped me because she was also outside of the project. And she had gone through her own health stuff, so she could really understand the traumatic part of it too. So that it was also, having other people around who had a very good eye. So so I got every image scanned, and I got every image printed as a little, like a postcard size, and we would just put them all on the floor and just keep pulling them out, weeding out the ones that weren't strong, and so you're ending up with the strongest 200, basically.
And then how did you choose the one for the cover? Because this
That
is
was actually,
very,
yeah,
it's wow. It's just got everything
yeah.
on here.
Yeah. So that actually was the designer Victor Levy, who lives in Holland, because I actually had, so it was a Dutch publisher who did it. I actually had this image, which I actually had this image as the front one,
Okay.
right? Which is about in 5 years after my process of, but so it's a green image of with the words "I am alive" on it. It was Victor who put this on, and when he put that, it was just like, of course, this is what it's about, because it's an image of me being radiated, and this image. It took me 4 years before I could draw that image.
Before you could
Like
draw it?
yeah, I could not
Wow.
talk about the radiation for 4 years. So it was during I was doing somatic experiencing therapy to help with the PTSD, and it took 4 years to be able to draw my experience. That's how intense it was.
That's just crazy. Holy cow. Well, I will say,
But
and
the
there are
interesting thing
200
is,
images in here, and for people who are on audio, we're going to put in the show notes how you can get the book yourself. But I'm just going to kind of, show a couple of these over video. Like they're just absolutely amazing, and they're so full of emotion, and and just you can really just kind of experience what you've gone through just by looking at the images that you drew, and they're just so incredible. And I was like brought to tears by some of them because you can just feel all of that emotion coming off of the page. So beautiful job.
but isn't it also amazing that there is all that pain in it, but there's also the joy at the end of it, right? And there's like, what I find amazing about the project is that that I heal, that I come through it, and that just blows my mind. And that I fall in love with life, basically, after all of this.
Well, and you said in that statement that you just said, and I want you to expand on it a little bit, to just there's can be beauty in trauma, and cancer is what it is. And we may think that it's the worst thing that could ever happen to us in our lives, but then what's on the other side of that, right?
Exactly. And I mean, I'm sure you've experienced this too, but what is on the other side of going through, and it doesn't have to just be cancer, but a health crisis, or something that really brings you to your knees, and you think, God, this is like, life cannot be worse than this. This is the worst thing that could possibly happen to me. For me, that was definitely getting cancer. Um, and I was angry about it for a long, long time. I was angry and very, very grieved about it. But what happened is that I just got rid of all of, before I was a perfectionist, I got rid of my perfectionism. I got into just enjoying my life, appreciating my life, understanding that this life is so precious and it's so short. And that ambition is, there's no space for ambition now. It's just like I just want to make the most of each day, and each moment I'm with a friend, or each interaction, because it is all extremely exquisite, and it's all a gift, because I should have, and so many doctors said it's a miracle that I'm alive, and that I should have been, like, this life should have finished at the age of 39. So this is like all my extra time, right? Um, and but and it's like you get rid of all the bullshit. Excuse the language, but it's like you go to the essence of life now, and I think there's so much more joy in it, and so much um, joy and presence, and yeah, just really seeing what the essence of life is. I mean, that's a huge, huge gift to receive.
Absolutely. And I think that is probably the biggest reason why I do this podcast, and the biggest message that I want to get across to people is that, and I say this almost every week, like, yes, cancer sucks. There are no two ways about it. And your life can be so incredibly amazing on the other side. And then I've had people correct me that say, okay, your life can be amazing going through the process also, not just on the other side,
Mm,
and that it doesn't have to be, yes, in some ways it can be the end of life as we know it. And we don't even know what's possible, on the other side.
mm,
And your experience in and of itself, just even with all of the years of PTSD and trying to heal and stuff, look at where you are today, you
mm.
know,
Yeah, yeah.
and
I
don't
did
sweat the
know.
small stuff.
Yeah, I did, that's for sure. But yeah, going through the process, I mean, I could not see the joy in going through the process. It was the hard
Well,
yards were
sure,
the
what
hard
you went
yards.
through, there's
Yeah,
no joy in that.
yeah. No, but even
Other
even
than what
afterwards,
came
even
out of it,
yeah, yeah,
all of
yeah,
these drawings.
yeah. Yeah, no, I'd be interested in to see how people, yeah, how some people can be enlightened through the process, sort of thing. The awakening comes at the after it because then you go, wow, okay, this is all we've got now. We've got like whatever the rest of this life is, this is it, and there really is a different appreciation and love to what we're given here within this lifetime.
And the things that we will go through to get to that other side.
Yeah, yeah. Can I show you the poem, that very last, the poem on the last page? Have
Absolutely. Do you
you?
want to read it to
Yeah,
us?
yeah. So this is how the book ends. Um, so it's a love poem to life, and it's, dear life, you never gave up on me when it was all too painful and I wanted to give up. You gently held me, waiting ever so patiently, quietly guiding. Remember those circles I have drawn? At first, I drew them as my cells burnt and died, willing them to return to health. Today, the larger circle I draw is me, and you have become my sacred center. You are my breath, you are my laughter, you are the unfurling flower, you are the child's smile, you are the beam of afternoon light pouring into my room. You are every tree, you are the cup of tea, you are every drawing, you are the vitality in every being. Beloved life, you are my love, my center. I honor you in all I do on this earth with these hands and this heart. In the meal I cook, in the tree I plant, in the hand I hold, in the drawing I create, in the joy I share. Sacred life, beloved life, I am alive.
Oh, that is so beautiful. What a love letter to life. That is fantastic. Ugh. And as I said, not being a creative myself, I always I love to consume works of art and creativity. I just am not great yet at expressing them myself.
Well, yeah, I think creativity is so beautiful because it really is the expression of a person's soul. So when you're witnessing someone's art or poetry or writing, you're witnessing their soul. I think it's an amazing gift to receive when you
Absolutely.
can read it. Yeah.
Absolutely. All right, Natalie. So, where can people find you if they want to reach out to you, if they want more information about you, your experience, and your book? What's the best way for people to get a hold of you?
I'm on Substack and I have a website, Natalie, which is natalielatham.com,
Okay.
Nathalie Latham. Yeah, and everything's on my website basically.
Okay. And we will
Yeah,
put all of that in the show notes. Absolutely.
thank you,
So people can have an easy click to get to
thank
it.
you.
And
And it's
then,
wonderful what you're doing. It's wonderful what you're doing, sharing these stories. I think it's so important to be able to have these resources for people who are going through difficulties, and also for the caregivers too. I think it's also important too to hear these stories too.
absolutely. And thank you. Thank you for that. I accept that. I love doing this. I love listening to people's stories, and I love the feedback that I get when somebody's story, helps someone get through a hard
Mm,
time. So thank you very much for that. And then I asked this of all my guests, and we did a little bit earlier, but this is a little more generalized thing. If you were to come across somebody who's just diagnosed with cancer or is in the midst of overwhelm about a cancer diagnosis, what is one piece of advice that you would give to that person to kind of help them get through those early stages?
First, if I was physically with them, I would just hold their hand and I would look into their eyes and I would just tell them that they're not alone. I think that's so important because it feels like such a lonely experience. And I think it's so important just to be able to sit with people, with people going through very distressing times. I think it's so easy to say things, but I think it's so difficult at times just to be and just to see them. So I think that would be I'd just hold their hands and tell them they're not alone. If it was to use words, I would definitely say, like, go, like, whatever spiritual practice they have, or if they don't have a spiritual practice, go into their spiritual practice, go deeper into that. If they don't, they could start to learn to pray or to connect to nature, or to walk in that, the cathedral of nature, or just to connect to something that is transcendent of their own physical being, their own physical experience. Because I think that transcendent experience is so important when you're going through physical difficulties and despair. And that's something that you've got to just keep returning to all the time during the day. Something that I used to do a lot was just return to my breath. In the poem, I talk about life being my breath, because that is life. Like, every breath is life. So I'd always just return to my breath, and that's coming back into the presence of what I have now. Is that I have my breath. I have my breath. And yeah, I think there's and I just think just to know that they're loved.
I love that. Beautiful. Yes,
Yeah.
we can feel very alone during this time, and we're definitely not. So that's beautiful. Beautiful
And even if
advice.
you don't feel loved by a human being, you feel, feel loved by nature, or by the sun, or by the moon, or by some, because there is just so much benevolent love around everywhere.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think we forget about that sometimes with the ways of the news, but there is truly love all around, and it will conquer all.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, Nathalie, thank you so much for your time today. This was such a wonderful conversation. And, I highly recommend people go and get this book, because it is just so powerful and so beautiful, as are you. And I'm so grateful for our time together. So thanks for sharing this day with me today.
Thank you so much, Melissa.
All right.
Thank you.
Take care.
See you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.